trying to understand what's happening with the smoke coming out of this.
I'm not sure if it's to be a volcano, but also that squid let out ink.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right.
Let's talk about this issue where we have this like, hey, we're doing the bad practice thing of like modifying the state because it's an array.
Yeah, JavaScript is yelling at me for
Yeah.
doing some of that.
So let's not keep this letters chosen. Let's get rid of this letters chosen array. We're going to get rid of this. So we're not going to use this. But what we're going to do is we're going to make 26 little states. B, C, right, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Right. Let me do this. Let me do this a different way because I'm going to get tired of writing that. That's what we're going to generate. So let's say A through Z, and we're going to map this as a letter, and we're going to generate a new hash. So letter to false, Ruby, right, to JSON. Oops, I don't want the letter to be a letter. I want this to be this. I want this to be this. Just doing this to save myself some typing. Except hash letter. What we're going to do is hash of letter equals false. Hash. Oh, come on. Inject. Oh. What am I doing? Inject this. Hash and letter. Oh, there's no. There we go. Now I have what I want. All that just to save myself some typing, right? Didn't really save much typing. Right. So now what we have is 26 little state variables rather than an array. Right. So now let's go to our isLetterAlreadyChosen function, and we can change this. Rather than say if this.state.letterChosen includes the letter, we can say, hey, this state, look up the letter, right? And if it's false, we haven't chosen it, and if it's true, we have chosen it, right? This.state bracket letter looks up A or B or C or D inside of our state, right? So let's find out elsewhere we're using letters chosen. Well, we're using it here, right? So let's just change the state question.
Are you changing the? Can you go back to the? Are you changing the state whenever you're calling it?
No, I haven't dealt with that yet. All I changed so far is the function is a letter already chosen.
Okay.
So the function is a letter already chosen used to use the letters chosen array, but now my state for whether a letter is chosen is just this.state.a will tell me if A has been chosen. This.state.b will tell me if B is chosen. This.state.z will tell me if Z is chosen. And I get rid of that whole pushing and arrays and having to change the state the wrong way. So now I need inside of here, let's make this event target value. I want to change the letter, whatever this letter is, right? If it's an A, right? I want that to be true, that I've chosen it, right? But I don't know what to put here. This needs to be a variable. So let's talk about that for a second. So let's make a person object whose name is Gavin, whose score is 100. Nope, not in this. Let's make a person object whose name is Gavin in JavaScript, whose score is 100. So we know we can say this, person dot name. We can say person name, right? But we can also create hashes where the key comes from a variable. So what if we wanted to have letter be C? And what I want is I want a object whose C is true. But I don't know this. I can't hard code this. I need this to be a variable. I can wrap it in some brackets. And if the key is wrapped up in a bracket, JavaScript will look up what's inside of this letter variable, whatever's inside of this variable, and let that be the key. This is a dynamic key in an object. This is kind of why I didn't do it this way. But it's actually simpler and the more correct way of dealing with this.
So the brackets are this kind of lookup?
No. Kind of. It's kind of a variable lookup. It's syntax that says, normally this would be a hard-coded key name, right? It would be like A is true, or F is true, or Z is true. But I can't hard-code it because the value of the key is coming from a variable. So if I just said letter, right, I would get this. I don't want letter, I want what's inside of letter. So I wrap it in some brackets. So yes, in a way it's a lookup, but it's asking JavaScript, don't use letter as the name of the key. Go look up what's inside of letter and make that the key. So if letter is Z, I don't know why the history is not working, right? Then I get Z is true. But if letter is D, then D is my key. So this is looking up this key dynamically. So now I have to fix this, where my letters are chosen, right? So I need a way of counting how many of the letters are chosen. Well, fortunately, I have this dot alphabet, right? So this dot alphabet is my A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So how can I go through this alphabet and figure out which letters are chosen? So I want back which letters from the alphabet are chosen. I have a big array, and I want a smaller array of just the ones that are chosen. That is filter. So let me filter through the letters such that this dot state letter is true. So this is, God dang it. This is the letters already chosen. The letters already chosen are all of the, if I go through my alphabet and I filter out letters, such that if I look up that letter on my state, it's true. Well, that's just the same as this. Now I can say, actually, how many letters chosen is letters already chosen length, right? How many things are in that array? And here I can say, oops, this stays a hard-coded 7, right? And this becomes right. So now that I'm not using any arrays, I'm just using state directly. I don't have any of that funny change the state outside of the state business. And this is probably, for you all, a good way of doing this. But we don't have the disabling working. Our disabled stopped working, right? Oh. Because this should just be letter. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So this is what you would do if you didn't want to have to deal with the complexities of arrays inside of states. This is what you would do, right? As soon as we deal with arrays inside of React states or objects nested inside of other objects in React states, it gets complicated. So for now, if we're changing state, it's easier just to have them as keys inside of the state. And you can say, hey, when you click a letter, just change that letter's state to true. And probably tomorrow or Thursday, I'm going to show you another library called Immutability Helper. And that's the library we're going to use to make complex changes to state. Right? So if you don't want to use an array and deal with the complexities of having arrays and states that you're modifying just yet, you could make 26 little state variables and have them be all false. And then when you click on a letter, you just say set state that letter to true. Something like this. This is probably how I would do it without having the complexity of trying to change the state and then send that to state. This is simpler, but I had to teach you this little syntax right here in order to make that work. Okay. So this avoids that bad habit of changing state outside of set state and then having to call set state again. Let's extract the button into a component and see what that looks like. So let's make a new component. Actually, let me commit this. Let's commit this. So this is going to be using state directly, no arrays. Okay, so let's extract this button. Let's make this a component. So here's our component. And this is kind of what the JavaScript's going to look like. Sorry, the HTML is going to look like. Right? It's going to be a button. So let's put this button in here. Okay. Except we don't give it a key. The value is going to be passed into us. This .props letter. Disabled is going to come into us as a prop. This props disabled. And the onClick is going to come into us as props, this .props .letter clicked. And this will become this .props .letter. Remember that, I'll answer your question in a second. Remember that props are things that are given to you when your component is created. State are things that you yourself modify. So we're saying now that this button has to be given three things: the letter that it represents, whether or not it's disabled, and the function to call when it's clicked. So when we click, we're going to call this .props .letter clicked. So back in our, sorry, Toby, you had a question.
I guess it's not that important
Well,
since value and letter are the same, but wouldn't value be this .props .value since it's pulling the value from?
It's whatever I want to call it. I'm going to call these new things. I'm going to call this .props the letter I want to show I get to decide the name of props. Taco Tuesday. The name of the props I get to decide.
But that has to pull the letter I want to show
Yep.
yada yada from someone.
You're going to see it in a second. So no, we're not going to return this button. We're going to return our component button. And this is going to become the letter,
That was my point, yes.
the letter, I want to decide what to show it. I get to decide what my props are called. So I don't have to use a value. I can use whatever I want it to be.
I just meant since it was called value, but
Right? And I don't have to do this. I can decide what I want to call them. And now if I import button from button,
Is it button.js?
you don't have to say the .js. So the only time you have to say an extension is if it's something like a JPEG file, a PNG file, or a JSON file. Right? So I can call this whatever I can call this whatever I like. So why would I not call the prop value? Well, that's not the best description for it. Right? Value is what we're going to use it as in the button, but it's also the thing to display. So I think a better name of this prop is letter. So even though it's used as a value here, I think a better name for it is letter. And now, aha, something's not working. Our click isn't working. Let's see if we can figure out why our click isn't working. So we're passing it this .letter clicked. Aha. So let's go see if we can figure out why letter clicked isn't working. Let's log what event target value is. Aha, I think I know why. Yeah, we're not getting anything. Oh, I'm not passing letter clicked here. Right, the name of the property is letter clicked. The letter clicked property is my letter clicked function. That's why. Right, I'm going to send this button, the function letter clicked, as this .letter clicked. Right, and then when I click, I'm going to call the letter clicked function. Now this is working. Question?
So with Minesweeper, I don't remember how it got to be this way, but when we were in the cell component, or in this case button, I thought you needed to call a function within the button.
I don't.
And then call it.
As long as this function is the function I would call, I can just call it.
Okay.
Because if I define a local function, let's call it like a local function to handle click. What would I call? I would just call this .props.letter clicked and pass it the event.
Okay. I thought it was some weird reaction that had to do that.
Nope. I only have to do this if the function that I'm calling, I need to send it more arguments. So let's do it this way. So what if I do this? Instead of this, I do
So because
local.
it has one prop.
No, it's because the thing that letter clicked expects is the event. So I can make the onClick the parent function because it's expecting an event. Let's change the parent function to expect something else. Let's change this function, letter clicked, not to expect the event, but to expect the letter itself. Right? So now it's no longer expecting an event. So now
Still call it, if you wanted to.
that would be a bad choice, Taco Tuesday, but it would be a bad choice because it does not represent an event.
It would still work though, technically.
Technically it would work,
Okay.
but now I do need a local function because what I'm going to pass here is this .props.letter. In this case, I do need a local function because it's the responsibility of the local function to say, oh, hey, I know what letter I am. When I call letter clicked, I need to give you back the letter. So this is why in tic-tac-toe, we needed the local function because it was sending along its props. Mm-hmm.
Is that, this.props.letter, that is not the same this.props.letter as down there?
It absolutely is,
Oh, it is?
100%.
Okay.
This button has some props. Somebody tell me the name of the props on a button. Just read them out.
Key, letter, disabled, letter, label.
Mm-hmm. So inside of button, this dot props dot letter disabled function click I can use anywhere in the component, and they're the same props. They're also unchangeable.
Right.
I cannot change what letter is here because I've received it from my parent. They are given to me and they are unchangeable. Props are unchangeable. State is changeable. Props are given to me by my parent. State I give birth to myself. I fetch it from an API, I hard code it, I pick it randomly from a list. I internally maintain my own state. Props are given to me. So the letter that's being passed to me is the letter that I get from here, right? I'm taking the letter that comes from this map and sending it to my button, but I'm calling it the same thing. This letter local variable becomes the prop that I send to the button, becomes this.props.letter. What's going on here is now all of a sudden you're having to remember like 6 things in your head at the same time, right? The letter that comes from this map is used here to send that variable as the letter prop to this component, and then inside of the component, I pull it out as a this.props.letter, right? The abstractions are stacking, and we have to be able to keep the contexts aligned. When we're in app.js, here, letter on this side is this local variable. Right. We just use the variable letter so often because it makes sense. Alphabet is made up of letters. But this little local variable that's working its way through this alphabet is sent to the prop as letter. Inside here, it's this.props.letter. So this is kind of the important thing to remember about props and state. Right? Props are sent in. We control the left-hand side. We can name these properties whatever we want. Whatever we name them here on the left-hand side is what they're called inside of the component as this.props. Whatever name you chose. Right? Where they come from is up to us as well. Right? We just have to make sure we're sending in the right thing from whatever variable we're pulling from. Question?
Yes. On button.js, the event, it could be called letter, right?
Yes, but that would be a bad choice.
Okay.
Because this is I could call it browser event. I could call it the event. I could call it the click event. But I wouldn't call it a letter because it does not represent a letter. It has nothing to do with a letter.
I thought you were just swapping the letter variable.
No. So a function that is a click handler or a right click handler or a submit handler or any event handler always receives an event as its argument. What you call that variable does not matter, but I would probably recommend you use the word event somewhere in the variable name because that's what it contains, right? In this case, I'm not even using the event at all, right? I don't need to use the event. I just need to know that a click happened. But there's nothing from the event that I care about because I already know what letter I am, right? So in this case, I would probably just choose not to have any event at all. Right? I don't need that variable because I'm not using it. If I were using it, I would call it something like event, click event, browser event, the event that happened, but not letter because it is not the letter variable or the property letter. The text, if I did event.target dot text content, that contains a letter, but that's not what this variable represents. Right. The first argument to any function that's handling a click, a drag, a right click, context menu is always going to be an event from the browser. So it should have event somewhere in its name. Right. We can't control what we receive, but we can control what we call it. Right. Just like when we name our props here, we can call these whatever we want here, but that means we've got to use the appropriate thing here. Letter disabled, local function, right? Or, sorry, letter clicked. Props and state. You notice that things that are state here get passed down to the props, right? We're taking whether or not the letter is already chosen and we're passing it down as disabled. Right? That's what's saying, hey, every time through this, I'm saying, is this current letter of the alphabet already chosen? I'm getting a true or a false, and that becomes my disabled prop for the button component. Right? That becomes this .props.disabled. This part here, refactoring that element into a component and how we're passing props, and the fact that we're calling the functions back up, that's kind of a key React thing, right? The ability for you to build this app out this way and then refactor into components, right? That's pretty much like 90% of what Cohort 11's been doing when they've been working on their front-end apps. It's building out all this HTML and then figuring out their components. The last part of what we're going to teach for this week is how to deal with multi-page React applications using React Router. That's pretty much what Cohort 11, when they've been working on their front ends, that's what they've been doing. Getting data from APIs, identifying components, refactoring into components, working with Router to have multi-page applications. Right, so this last part of the video where we refactored the explicit HTML into a component, right? This is a pretty simple component, it's just a button, right? Their components are things like the questions I'm asking this person, or a calendar of racing events, or right, a list of states and how much cost of living is in those states, right? The various types of apps they're working on. They're making larger components than us just making a little button. So that's a good part to go back and re-review. How do you take parts of something that is either dynamically created or statically created and pull it and lift it and put it in a component, and then figure out what things you need to pass it that used to be local or state, which become properties in the component that we extract, the child component. Questions? No? All right. I think what we'll do is, so I have an app. So we'll do one of two things at 2. Either we will implement this app at 2. This is called OneList. OneList is like a to-do list, right? We can add to-do list items, and then we can check them off by clicking them, right? Or double-click on them and delete them. So either this will be the review at 2 app will build, or start to build, or this will be your homework, and we'll build something else at 2. One of the two. One of the two things will be.
If we do this at 2, what's our homework?
I will invent something new that'll be similar. Because the homework that I had queued for today is a React Router homework, but we haven't talked about React Router yet. So that'll be probably your homework for tomorrow night. Well, after we talk about React Router. So maybe what we'll do at 2 is maybe we'll start to build this, and then you all can take that as your starting position to build the rest. Maybe that's what we'll do at 2. We'll just build this up to some point, and then you all can take that as your starter files to work on homework. Does that sound good? Cool. We'll do that. That'll work. It might look a little bit different. I don't know if we'll use this. This was Jason's styling that he did for another class. Maybe we'll do something similar. Maybe we'll do something a little different. But it'll be something like this. There'll be a title, and there'll be a bunch of to-do items, right? Where we can add more, you know, right? And then, you know, check or uncheck things when they're done. Something like this. Cool. All right.
Kevin, you think the videos will be up by, I know they take a while.
Yeah, I will start uploading them now, and then they'll be up when YouTube gets done uploading them. I'm out for lunch today. We have an off-site team meeting, but I will make sure the videos are up at least as soon as YouTube will process